The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello everyone, welcome to Leadership Podcast. It is yet another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, without taking much of your time, I am your regular host, Jogba is my name. And of course, with me here in the studio are in-house analyst, Silas Ezebu, and Inse Anthony Ko. And the big issue of the day is the Buhari sack of AEDC board over the strike action recently embarked by the AEDC workers. And of course, the strike prolonged Abuja, the nation's capital, and 4 other states into darkness. And of course, the announcement of the disengagement of the AEDC board made the Power Ministry, and of course, with the purported backing of the Bureau of Public Enterprise, has been greeted positively in some quarters, while some Nigerians are opposed to it, suspecting political moves. Well, the nation's capital and of course some states surrounding it were thrown into darkness for 2 days, following the strike action embarked by the electricity workers. And of course, government's intervention was to sack the board of the AEDC. Madam Inte, we have always seen strikes. Doctors have gone on strike. ASU will always go on strike. We have not seen this kind of a thing where government will come up and sack a board of an organization because workers went on strike. Why is this one like that?
Well, I wouldn't really say that the federal government moved in because the workers went on strike. The sacking of the board was propelled by issues beyond the strike. I think the strike only brought to the fore the extent to which the issues with the board, the challenges with the board of the company, AEDC, had gotten to. From the strike brought out to the public the rot that has really taken place in that organization. And you would say that maybe the government didn't have any business stepping in, being that it's a private company. But don't forget that the power utility is actually owned by government. 40, like
the government owns 40%.
Yes, 40% of it, and 60% is owned by the private sector investors. So there has been issues ongoing with that. The current the management of the AEDC, and so that's what prompted government stepping in.
Yes. Now, Sincera, you heard what Inse has said. Inse is saying that it was not necessarily the strike. But yesterday, following the announcement of the strike, the Minister of State for Power said the disengagement of the AEDC board followed this recent strike action by the electricity workers, the AEDC workers. And of course, that was a very big embarrassment because the nation's capital is involved there. And we have the surrounding states like Kogi, Nasarawa, were all plunged into darkness. And of course, I'm just trying to imagine that kind of coincidence, that at the point where that kind of action was taking place, then embarrassing government by keeping the whole nation's capital and its environs in darkness for 2 days. And then now, can it be possible that it was not because of the strike action, that it was because of certain internal issues that were there? Why is it now that government decided to take that action?
You know, from the way I said explained it, It's not that if the strike is not part of it, but strike was the kind of trigger.
The catalyst.
Yes, that we come into act. They must have been watching events and maybe not being. The government is not talking about firing things, firing people and firing boss. It's only in some cases, few cases that this government has come out to deal so precisely with people who have seemed to have been negligent the duty posts.
But don't forget that the power minister too was within this act.
To show that the whole power gamut in the country has not really been well, not been running well, and then unfortunately, most people have thought that this government would have had a political will to right the wrongs of the past administration when they did this power organization. So the companies to do so have not the capacity, to manage it well. But they sold it to some political cronies and fronts and so on. And it has not helped. But any time they've done such a thing, it has not really helped. The place normally goes down. It's better that the past senator is now in private hands. We have ensured efficiency, more power to people. But nothing has changed really for most people. In fact, in some parts where some of us live, we didn't know there was a strike. Because the hours of darkness are still hours of darkness. You have to look for alternate power, whether solar or generator, and all the noise, to get going. So many people don't. But I was talking to somebody this morning. I said there was a strike. There was a strike. What's the difference? What's the difference? Same difference. There was strike. No one said there's no light. There's no power. So I think that that this strike just showed government the extent, like she said, which the rot has gone. And then the management has said not to. And let me tell you something. I don't want to try this topic away from the main issue that whenever you've seen this kind of rot, there's always a lot of corruption involved. Whenever it happens. So just look in, you see a lot of rot. Then it's not enough to just sack them. You should look into why the place was allowed to degenerate to the point that they cannot service the loans they took. They cannot even pay their workers, even the doctors from their pay. Why? You mean that some people have been feeding fat on those things, and then just go is not enough. They need to bring them and say, okay, fine. Let them go there. Say, if you don't begin to promote accountability. Nigeria wants to say probe, people say you are hunting. You know which hunting. No, you have to find out how things has happened. And because people know that they have always found a way to put their hand in the kitchen, they will find out, they will start looking for ways to cover up and not do something. But they need to just find, attacking not enough. They need to look at what has happened, why is it that these people are derailed in this way? And so that those who are coming after them will possibly know that they cannot behave in the same manner.
Well, let me say. Well, today again, the Minister of Power came out to clarify its position on the disengagement of that board. And one would have even wondered why did it happen in the first place? And now factoring UBA into the matter, that is what the federal government is trying to say. Is that I think it's trying to dodge the fact that it is meddling in the affairs of something that was supposed to be private sector driven. Because naturally, even if it took that action, it was normal that it takes that action in a place that had degenerated to a point where people can, the organization cannot service its role, and workers are not being paid.
I would say that is that announcing sack of the management of a private entity, so to speak. So the government had to immediately come out to explain that it did not take that. It had to approve. It had to approve the disengagement in the board, being that its government is part owner, even though they're not majority owners. And the case of UBA came in from the beginning, UBA was the bank that facilitated the core investor, the MAN consortium took over the private sector investment in AEDC. So UBA paid for it. And the understanding was that this debt will be serviced over time. And like we have seen here now, that has been pointed out, there's been a lot of mismanagement of funds in that AEDC, as we see. And from all indications, the companies must have gone in without the requisite resources to be able to service that debt, and then it has degenerated. And let me bring it out here that over time, the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, has had to step in to resolve issues, to kind of bring out some funds.
Some kind of intervention.
Yes, some kind of intervention to ensure that things continue to run. So it has not been devoid of government participation at all. Government has always been in on it to ensure that everything runs smoothly. But I think in the spirit of kind of taking away all forms of subsidy, sort of, we have seen that it's coming up in the
in the oil sector,
and even in electricity consumption and all that. So government wants to ensure that if the private sector took this thing over, they should be able to handle it.
Well,
so it's kind of removed its hand, and then UBA appointed a receiver manager to take over that asset to be able to recover their money. So that's why we see this change, and that's what government came out to say. We have approved it, but it did not originate from us.
Okay. Well, we'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Well, let's see. Welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is the sack of the AEDC board. Following the strike action embarked upon by the electricity workers. That's from what this has just said. This has brought to the fore the whole issue of this privatization issue. This privatization issue that was done under the PDP government doesn't appear to be working at all. Because how can the government hand over an organization to the private sector, and then at the same time, the government will still have certain level of intervention, like what she's saying now, the CBN or had intervening by sometimes shooting out funds, then the subsidy is private and review the whole privatization system, especially in the power sector.
See, A lot of people are calling for such a issue, but this government has not always. I don't know what I don't know what legal, you know, reason why framing. But the thing that we continue to evolve where we are now. Okay, so we found out that after since the last comment left, this one came, we are still evolving, we still having around the same 3,000, 4,000 megawatts. Nothing has really changed. It's good that the public people will be more serious because their money is involved. If their money is actually involved, but if their money is involved, expect that they should take the thing as business, run it that way. Business cause out waste, negligence. Okay, but we still find out that they're behaving like government workers, civil servants there, and that's why it's not working. So, in the past, when government announced the honest opinion, they were used to put in passive, raise the alarm, say, how can we be putting public money into private enterprise? Why does it work like that? It's not even borrow, loan it alone, but investing it. And then people scream that, as government this, they didn't give anybody any response. You know. So, it's unfortunate that I was still talking about it for 2 years. The existing military rule.